My name's Frank Miller, 68 years old, retired mailman and part-time philosopher of bad coffee. 8 years ago, my daughter Lily left home after the kind of fight that makes wallpaper curl. She packed a duffel bag, slammed the door so hard the porch light went out, and drove off with that slick-haired boyfriend of hers, Trent. I remember yelling something like, "He's not good for you," and she yelled back, "At least he listens." That one stung, mostly because it was true. Since then, I've kept her room exactly the way she left it: a lemon candle, a pile of fashion magazines, and the quilt her grandma made, the one with the crooked blue squares. I still fix the squeaky gate every spring, like she might walk through it again someday. Then, last Thursday, I turned on the evening news and nearly dropped my sandwich. There she was, my daughter, smiling, wearing pearls, standing next to Trent in a suit so shiny he could probably see his reflection in it. And the headline read, "Local couple launches charity to reconnect families. 8 years of silence." And she shows up on TV talking about family. But that was nothing compared to what happened when my phone started ringing 5 minutes later. It was my neighbor, Edna. She's 81, sharp as a tack, and has binoculars that could read license plates from 2 blocks away. "Frank!" she shouted before I could say hello. "Is that your Lily on Channel 7? The one who once borrowed my pie dish and never returned it?" "Yes, Edna," I sighed. "That Lily." "Well, she looks rich now," Edna said. "You should call her before she forgets your name." Then she hung up, probably to re-watch the segment in slow motion. I sat there staring at the screen, watching Lily smile like she'd never burned bridges or fathers. Trent's arm was around her shoulder. He looked like the kind of man who wore too much cologne and too little honesty. Something in me cracked, like an old fence post after a hard winter. Not anger, more like confusion and a touch of curiosity. 8 years is a long time to hate someone you raised to love you. So, I brewed a cup of coffee, my thinking fuel, and said out loud, "If she's really back in town, maybe it's time someone checked if those smiles are real." "Of course, Sausage," the cat meowed like, "Don't do it, Frank." But I did, because the next morning I drove straight to Channel 7. Only, when I walked through the doors, the first person I saw wasn't Lily. It was him. Trent Holloway in person looked exactly how I imagined, like a salesman who could talk you into buying your own lawnmower back. Perfect teeth, slicked hair, and a handshake that felt like it came with small print. "Mr. Miller," he boomed, all charm and cologne. "Wow, what an honor. Lily will be thrilled. She talks about you all the time." "Really?" I said. "Funny. She forgot my number." He laughed, like I'd just told a joke at a golf club. I didn't laugh back. While he guided me through the studio, cameras were flashing. People were rushing. The whole place smelled like stress and hairspray. Trent kept talking about their new charity, Back Home, a program to rebuild family connections. "Beautiful idea," I said. "Did it come to you before or after you took mine?" He didn't like that one. His smile tightened so fast it squeaked. Then he said, "Lily's getting her makeup done. She'll be out in a minute. You might want to, freshen up a bit, Mr. Miller." "Freshen up?" "Buddy, I survived 3 decades of summer mail routes. My sweat has historical value. Still, I straightened my shirt and waited, heart pounding like I was 20 again. And then, the makeup room door opened. For the first time in 8 years, I saw my daughter. But when her eyes met mine, she didn't smile. She froze, like she'd just seen a ghost who remembered everything. She looked different, elegant, confident, maybe a little too polished, but her eyes were still the same hazel shade that used to roll at my dad jokes. "Dad?" she said, barely a whisper. "Last I checked," I replied. Though it's been so long, I was starting to wonder if I'd been replaced by a hologram. Her mouth trembled like she wanted to smile, but then Trent appeared beside her, and that tiny flicker vanished. He put a hand on her back, all possessive, like he was reminding her of the script. "Sweetheart, you ready for the cameras?" he asked. I stood there like an uninvited ghost at my own family reunion. Lily cleared her throat. "Dad, maybe we can talk after the show?" "Sure," I said. "I'll just sit in the audience and cheer when you say family values." A makeup girl snorted and then pretended to cough. Trent glared at me like he wanted to invoice my attitude. So I sat in the corner, pretending to read a brochure about reconciliation projects. My heart ached like a loose tooth. 8 years, and now we were meeting under fluorescent lights and fake applause. But the thing that hurt most wasn't the cameras, it was the way she looked at Trent before she said anything. Like she needed permission to breathe. And right then, I decided I wasn't leaving that studio until I found out what kind of man my daughter had really married. Because if Trent was the same snake I'd warned her about, I was ready to rattle. The show began like every morning talk circus I'd ever mocked from my recliner. The host beamed like her teeth were battery-powered. "Today," she announced, "we're joined by the founders of Back Home Lily and Trent Holloway." The audience clapped. I didn't. I just crossed my arms and muttered, "Back home, my foot." Lily spoke softly, almost rehearsed. "We want to help families reconnect, to forgive, to heal old wounds." Her voice trembled on, "Forgive," and I knew right then this wasn't her idea. Trent jumped in, loud and polished. "Our mission is simple. Turn regret into hope. We've even reconnected with Lily's father, who's here today." And before I could duck, a camera swung toward me. The host gasped. "Is that you, Mr. Miller?" I waved, mostly to prove I was still alive. "Guess I should have ironed my shirt," I said. The crowd laughed. Trent didn't. Then he added, "We're so thankful he's open to reconciliation." Reconciliation? The man acted like he was Mother Teresa with a mortgage. I stared at him and smiled politely, but my insides were boiling like bad chili, because I saw something on his wrist, a watch. My watch. The one Lily gave me for Father's Day, 10 years ago. And in that moment, my smile turned to stone. Because if that man was wearing my watch, it meant one thing. Somewhere along the way, he'd taken more than just my daughter. I couldn't focus on anything else, that shiny, smug little watch ticking on his wrist like it was mocking me. Gold face, leather strap, tiny scratch near the 12. I knew every mark. I'd worn it through 30 Christmases and one colonoscopy. When the show ended, the host thanked them for spreading love and unity, and I nearly choked on my complimentary donut. As soon as the camera stopped, Trent strutted over. "Great reaction from the crowd, huh, Mr. Miller? Maybe we can get you on camera next time." "Sure," I said, "if it's for a true crime documentary." Lily bit her lip, like she wanted to laugh but didn't dare. I pointed at his wrist. "Nice watch." "Oh, this?" he said casually. "Lily gave it to me years ago." "That's funny," I said, "because she gave it to me first." Silence. Even the intern with the coffee tray froze mid-step. Lily's eyes darted down to the watch, then back to me. "Dad, I didn't know he still had it." "Still has it?" I said. "Honey, he's wearing it on national television." Trent tried to chuckle it off. "Well, family shares things." "Then I assume you won't mind sharing how you got it," I said, smiling sweetly. He looked like a man who'd just swallowed his own ego, and Lily's hands started to shake, because in that tiny moment, I realized something was wrong and my daughter wasn't as happy as the TV made her seem. When Trent walked off to take a call, I turned to Lily. "You okay, kiddo?" She nodded too quickly. "Of course. Trent's just under pressure. The charity, it's a lot." "Uh-huh," I said. "And how's he treating you when the cameras aren't rolling?" She hesitated. The old Lily, the one who used to stick her tongue out when she lied, made a brief comeback. "He's fine, Dad." "Really? Fine," I repeated. "That's what people say about expired milk." She laughed, just a flicker of it, but then her eyes watered. "You shouldn't have come." "I had to," I said quietly, "because I saw that smile on TV, and I know your real one." She bit her lip, glanced at the door where Trent had gone. "Dad, he's not bad. He just likes control. Everything has to be perfect." "Oh, I know his type," I said. "Back in my postal days, we called that a fragile ego with a stamp of denial." Her shoulders shook, half laugh, half sob. "You never change." "And you do," I said gently. "That's the scary part." Right then, a studio assistant popped in and said, "Mr. Holloway wants you both outside for a family photo." A family photo, with a man who'd probably sell the frame afterward. But I went because sometimes the only way to protect your kid is to smile until the truth leaks out on its own. And that truth came faster than I expected right there in the studio parking lot. The parking lot was full of shiny cars that probably cost more than my house, and one very nervous intern trying to photograph us against a fake sunset backdrop. Trent wrapped an arm around Lily's waist and said, "Let's get one with everyone smiling, yeah?" I looked straight into the camera and said, "Sure, I'll smile when my watch waves back." The intern snorted. Trent's jaw tightened so much I thought his spray tan might crack. Lily tried to diffuse it, whispering, "Dad, please." But I wasn't done. "Oh, come on, I'm smiling. This is my so proud of my son-in-law who robs the elderly face," Trent snapped, voice low and venomous. "You're embarrassing, Lily." "Son," I said, "you don't need me for that. You're doing great on your own." The intern suddenly remembered he had somewhere else to be, and sprinted away. Trent leaned closer, his breath reeking of ego and espresso. "Stay out of our lives, old man! We don't need you!" Lily flinched, not at his words, but at the way he said them. "Sharp! Cold! Too familiar." I looked at her and said softly, "If you ever do need me, you know where the squeaky gate is." Then I turned and walked toward my old pickup. But just as I reached the door, I heard it Lily's voice, trembling, small, almost a whisper. "Dad, can I come home?" And that's when everything, the charity, the smile, the pearls, started to crumble right before my eyes. For a second, I thought I'd imagined it that my guilty conscience had grown vocal cords. But when I turned around, there she was, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Trent spun toward her, eyes wide. "What did you just say?" She swallowed hard. "I said I want to go home." You could have heard a pin drop, or in this case, Trent's ego deflating. He forced a laugh, high-pitched and awkward. "Sweetheart, don't be dramatic. We're doing great. We're public figures. You can't just walk away." Lily took a step back. "Watch me." Now, I'm not proud of what came next, but my mouth and common sense have been estranged for decades. I said, "Trent, maybe instead of giving interviews about healing families, you could try not ruining one." His face turned the color of week-old ketchup. "You think you can just waltz in and take her?" "Son," I said, "I can't even waltz without cramping, but I can drive, and that's enough." Lily let out a small, nervous laugh, the first real one I'd heard in years. Then she whispered, "He's been controlling everything, Dad. My money, my phone. He even made me block you." I took a slow breath, steady but firm. "Then let's unblock me, sweetheart. Starting right now." Trent barked, "You're not going anywhere." And that's when the most unexpected person in the parking lot decided to intervene. Because apparently, my neighbor Edna had followed me, and she was armed with her cane and a righteous sense of drama. Out of nowhere, a voice cut through the tension like a car alarm in church. "Frank Miller, you didn't tell me this was going to be better than cable." There she was, Edna from across the street, floral dress, giant sunglasses, and her trusty cane, which she swung like a baton in a marching band. Trent blinked. "Who is this woman?" Edna puffed up like a peacock. "Neighborhood watch. And I'm watching you, slick hair." Lily's lips twitched half terror, half laughter. "Edna, what are you doing here?" "Oh, honey," she said. "When your father left with that, I'm about to make questionable decisions. Look." I grabbed my purse and followed. "He has a history." Trent's voice sharpened. "You both need to leave before I call security." Edna pointed her cane at him. "You can call whoever you want, but I already called Channel 7's gossip desk. They love a good hypocrisy scoop." Imagine the headline: "Charity King Berates Wife in Parking Lot." He froze like someone had just unplugged his confidence. I couldn't help it. I laughed so hard I nearly pulled something vital. Lily covered her mouth, tears mixing with laughter. "Dad, she's incredible." "Yep," I said, "and terrifying before noon." Trent muttered something under his breath and stormed toward his car. But as his tires screeched out of the lot, Edna leaned in and whispered, "You owe me a pie, Frank." Lemon meringue. And as ridiculous as it all looked, That was the first time in 8 years my daughter and I stood side by side laughing instead of yelling. We stood there in the middle of that parking lot, laughing like lunatics, while the cameras from the studio window probably captured every glorious second. Lily wiped her tears, half laughing, half trembling. Dad, I can't believe she actually scared him off. Sweetheart, I said, Edna once chased a tax collector out of my yard with a rake. Fear is her love language. Edna adjusted her sunglasses. Don't flatter me, Frank. I just hate arrogant men and early reruns. Lily giggled again, the kind of laugh that sounded like her 12-year-old self-sneaking cookies after bedtime. But as the laughter faded, I saw the years written on her face: exhaustion, regret, that quiet ache of pretending to be happy for too long. Let's go home, I said softly. She hesitated. He'll come after me, Dad. He'll twist it, make me the villain. He always does. I put a hand on her shoulder. Then let him. Every villain eventually runs out of stage lights. But you? You've still got daylight. Edna sniffed. That was poetic, Frank. Almost romantic. Are you sure you're not auditioning for Hallmark? I smirked. Nah, they said I was too realistic. Lily smiled through her tears, grabbed my hand, and nodded. Okay, let's go home. So we did 3 generations of stubbornness and 1 stolen watch lighter. But when we pulled up to my old house, that familiar squeaky gate was open and someone was already waiting on the porch. At first I thought it was the mailman, which would have been ironic, since I used to be one, but no. Standing on my porch, nervously checking his phone, was Trent. Good grief, Edna muttered. He tracks faster than a bloodhound on espresso. Lily froze beside me. Dad, I don't want a scene. Sweetheart, I said. It's fine. I'm too old to fight, but I'm young enough to call the local news, and they owe me a favor after the squirrel segment I helped them with. Trent looked up, his charm worn thin. Lily, come on. You don't want to throw everything away. She took a shaky breath. Trent, everything I had was already gone. He tried to step forward, but Edna clacked her cane on the pavement like a sword hitting a shield. Casanova. Another step and you'll be trending for all the wrong reasons. I crossed my arms. Listen, son. You took my daughter's peace, my trust, and my watch. I'd say we're overdue for returns. Trent sneered. You can keep the old house and your little pity party, Frank. But Lily, she's my wife. Lily squared her shoulders. Not anymore. And then she reached for her necklace, unhooked it, and handed it back to him. This is the only thing you ever gave me that wasn't a lie. He looked like he'd been slapped with reality. Edna clapped softly. Well, that's our finale, folks. Trent turned red, muttered something about lawyers, and stomped off. His car tires squealed, but this time no one flinched, because for the first time in years, the only sound left behind was peace, and Edna asking if she could move in, just for the drama. That night felt strange, like déjà vu with better lighting. Lily sat at the kitchen table, the same spot she used to do her algebra homework, while I pretended to help and mostly ate her snacks. She traced her fingers along the wood grain. It hasn't changed. Neither has the heating bill, I said. Still costs more than a Caribbean vacation to keep this place warm. She smiled faintly, but her eyes wandered around the room, the family photos, the worn-out curtains, the clock that ticked 2 seconds slow. I thought you'd have moved on. I tried, I said honestly, but this house always felt unfinished without you. Like a sentence missing its last word. For the first time, she let herself cry quietly, like someone afraid to disturb the furniture. I poured us both some cocoa, the kind that tastes like nostalgia and regret, and sat across from her. Dad, she whispered, I wasted so many years trying to prove you were wrong about him. I chuckled softly. That's all right. I spent just as many years trying to prove I was right. Guess we both lost and won. She laughed through her tears. You're impossible. Comes with the Miller genes, I said. Stubbornness and sarcasm, it's our family crest. For a while, we just sat there, no TV, no noise, Just the hum of a refrigerator that's older than most marriages. Then Lily reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I want to make things right, Dad. I really do. I nodded. Then let's start with breakfast tomorrow. You flip the pancakes. I'll handle the smoke alarm. And for the first time in 8 long years, the house finally felt alive again, though peace didn't last long, thanks to one unexpected visitor at sunrise. At 6 in the morning, just as I was flipping a pancake that looked suspiciously like the state of Texas, someone banged on the door. Edna, of course. Fully dressed, lipstick applied, and holding a newspaper like a trophy. "Frank, you're famous!" she shouted before even stepping inside. "You, Lily, and that shiny-haired husband of hers, front page of the Morning Herald?" Lily groaned, half amused, half mortified. "What does it say?" Edna read dramatically. "Back home scandal. Charity founder's marriage falls apart on camera. Father reunites with estranged daughter in heartwarming turn." I blinked. "Heartwarming? They make it sound like we rehearsed it." Edna grinned. "Honey, if I'd known it'd make the news, I'd have worn my pearls." Lily laughed, a real, belly-deep one. "Well, that's one way to start over." I poured her another cup of coffee. "Welcome back to small-town fame. By noon, everyone at the diner's gonna know your favorite color and my cholesterol level." She took a sip, smiling. "You're okay with that?" I shrugged. "I've survived worse. Once the whole town found out I fell asleep in church and snored through Pastor Jim's sermon, and yet, here I am, still breathing, still caffeinated." Edna winked. "And still single." I groaned. "Edna, please, this is a family breakfast, not a dating ad." Lily laughed so hard she nearly spilled her mug. For the first time in 8 years, her laughter filled every corner of that quiet house. And as sunlight hit the old kitchen clock, I realized maybe losing her back then wasn't the end of our story. Maybe it was just the long pause we both needed before the right words returned. The next morning, Lily and I took a walk down Maple Avenue, the same street she'd driven away from 8 years earlier. The trees were taller, the mailbox leaned a little more, and well, I'd added a few new noises to my knees. We didn't talk much. We didn't have to. Sometimes silence between people who love each other isn't empty. It's healing. At the end of the street, she stopped, looked up at me, and said, "Dad, thank you for waiting." I smiled. "Kiddo, I never stopped. I just got better at pretending I was fine." She squeezed my arm. "You were right about him." "Eh?" I said. "Don't tell me that now." I liked having the moral high ground keeps me young. She laughed, and I swear, it sounded like spring itself. When we got home, Edna was sitting on the porch with 2 slices of pie. "I brought breakfast," she announced. "And gossip." Lily grinned. "Does it ever stop?" Edna winked. "Not while I'm breathing." We ate in the sunshine, 3 stubborn souls, one peaceful house, and not a single camera in sight. And as I watched my daughter laugh again, really laugh, I finally understood something. Love doesn't fade just because time passes. It just waits quietly, stubbornly for its moment to start over. Sometimes coming back home isn't about a place at all. It's about finding the courage to forgive and laugh again. Before you go, tell me your age and where you're watching from. I love knowing where my stories find a home.